I'm all set.
I always like to have a little chatter, beforehand.
Let me give you the bird's eye view for a minute.
There you go. Nassau Bay Garden Club. Oh my goodness.
I have the most wonderful compost source, and I may add that in at the beginning too, so just so that people can know about him. He's on my side of town, but man, it's worth it. Can they hear you and I right now?
Let's see. Absolutely, they can hear us.
Oh, well,
Jeff
hello,
says
Nick.
I'm
Good
the
morning,
polar
Devin.
opposite of y'all. I can actually kill dirt. That is a talent, Jeff. I have to say, I've not heard that one before. I've heard I can kill a cactus, but I didn't know it's possible to kill dirt. That's very, very clever.
Did you grow artichokes when you were in Southern California?
Southern California? No, I did not. I did not grow artichokes. I know that California is probably the only or one of the few places you can get them, but I think they grow those out where it's like, where I grew up in Los Angeles, it's desert, but I think the artichoke farms are mostly towards Central California, perhaps.
So they will actually grow here with some additional attention to it. And I've attempted them and actually had one or two go to create the beautiful purple flowers that they make. So it needs real sandy soil though, like you had there. You could have done it in your yard.
Well, maybe I'll get my dad to do it. He's been trying to get a little, so my dad just retired officially like less than a year ago. And he's, the workhorse generation, right? It's so hard for him not to work. And, then he found a little contract work and then that wasn't enough work. So he watched the John Panzarella webinar that we did last year. And
yes, I was there too.
It sparked a little interest in him. So like every, a few days I'll get an email or a text message from him, or he'll call and be like, okay, I'm planting this new thing today.
That's awesome.
And, and I'm like, okay, let's learn. And it's so funny because the guy is a mechanical engineer and you think that gardening would be something that would kind of, make sense to him. But it's completely new. And I think it's beyond him. I'm like, I thought this would be something that would just kind of come to you,
We learn, I think, sometimes as much, if not more, from our disasters than we do from our successes.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And it's always an experiment as far as I'm concerned. Try something new. Keep the things that are go-to that will always succeed. And I don't really consider it cheating.
For those of you that logged in, good morning. Welcome to the Sienna Association's Landscape webinar. Today's guest is the wonderful P J Campagna that I've had the pleasure of getting to know slowly over the last few months. And I'm really looking forward to what she has to share with us. So without further ado, grab your pens and papers to take some notes and a cup of coffee, and let's enjoy this beautiful Saturday morning and then get out there and do some gardening before all this rain comes apparently next week. I was looking at that this morning. It's a good time to get some stuff in the ground before that rain comes. So please go ahead, PJ. I'll let you take over from here.
So good morning, everyone. I want to thank you, Nika. This is just a really nice privilege to be able to be with y'all this morning. I know that you probably all had some of the challenges that I've had, in that the freeze in February could have been devastating. I don't know if you lost power, if your trees and plants froze to death like some of mine did. But today we're going to talk about how I started my journey and the things that have been very successful and the setbacks, both from what I call the snowvid or the snowpocalypse, as it was in my front yard. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So let me maximize this so that you see the full screen.
That looks great. We can see it now.
Excellent. So there we go. So it's all about the survival and what you can do. I love beautiful flowers, but I also like beautiful things that can feed me. So most of my landscape is edible, not all of it, but a good percentage of it is. And this is my home. It's the home that my parents designed and built, and we moved into the house in 1964. It's right across the street from the Manned Spacecraft Center. My dad was a NASA engineer, and so I'm a NASA brat. And this is the view from the fence line looking into the backyard. We had a 1 meter diving board. That's now long gone. Oops. This is looking at the pool house from the other direction. And this last winter, my husband, very handy engineer that he is, constructed a seasonal greenhouse around the eaves of the pool house so that everything was able to be protected with a portable heater. And that saved my butt. I have to tell you, many, many plants survived because of that greenhouse. And we'll put it up again this next winter, whether we need it or not. So as you can see, it was pretty much a clean slate when we got started after my mother passed away. And you're going to see what it's turned into. So there were a few things. You'll notice to the bottom left, the azalea bush, that is when it's before the snowpocalypse, it was up to the roof line. And I thought it died, even though it was 50 years old. I thought it was dead, but it is coming back. And this is the front courtyard. Obviously, we were still in remodeling construction mode here. This is the front yard before we got a fence up on the side. And when we originally built the house, we saved every tree that we could, and there were 33 trees in this yard. We now have 3 of the original trees left. They died due to old age and disease and hurricanes. We lost about a third of the trees in Hurricane Alicia in '83. So it's just what happens with nature. It comes and it goes. So obviously nothing growing here. And cactus in the front so that they could be totally ignored. That's looking at the back from the other side. Now, we had a front gate, and those are our 2 wonderful watchdogs. That's what the gate looks like now. So be whimsical with your gardening and what you're going to do to ornament your yard. This was a repurposed praying mantis from my brother's backyard in Memorial. And that's what it looked like when we took it away. And this is what it looks like now. And he guards the garden. So a lot of things suffered. Some things are coming back, but it's really hard to know whether it's time yet to take away and dig out the things that are truly dead. I urge you to be patient because things that you think are long gone may come back. This is a Montingia calibura, sometimes called the strawberry tree. This is an awesome tree, but it doesn't like freezing temperatures. It did not make it. We will be replacing it. It's not an expensive tree, and it will give you food. It'll be flowering. You'll have green fruit and you'll have ripe fruit all on the tree at the same time all summer long. It is an amazingly productive tree, and the fruit is yummy. It tastes like blackberry bubble gum. Excuse me. So this is the fruit. Just a bite full of absolute sweet and wonderful. That's what it looked like after the freeze. This is a grumichama tree, which is more of a bush than a tree. And it grew and grew. It was well over 6 feet tall this last year. And that's what it looks like now. So we took some softwood cuttings right before the freeze happened. And I think either one or two of those softwood cuttings are going to survive. So I have a new generation of Grumichama, hopefully. So my goal is to grow things that are unusual, either that you can't find in the grocery store, or if you can find it, but it's so outrageously expensive that you don't want to pay the price for it on a regular basis. On top of that, anything that you grow in your own garden to eat, and I'm totally organic here, so you're not going to have any pesticides or herbicides or things in that food chemically that you don't want. When you know you've grown it yourself, you know you've got good food. So that and the fact that when you pick it right before you eat it, it has all the nutrients that your body wants to be able to get from the food you grow. You feed the soil feeds the plants, and then the plants feed you. Okay, so now I want to talk with you about my passion. I like to grow the unusual. We have a unique situation in the Houston area in that we can grow the tropicals, we can grow the subtropicals, and with protection, we can grow things that are ultra tropicals. I got interested. The Grumichama that I just spoke about is in the Eugenia family. And there are two different categories that I want to talk about today. And this is becoming more of a passion for me. My collection is growing. There are thousands of varieties in the Eugenia family to choose from. Some taste wonderful, some not so much. So when you start from seed, you don't know what yours is going to taste like. It's very interesting that it is such an experiment. So this is one of the seedlings. It's a Eugenia biflora. I haven't tasted it yet. I'm hoping I'm going to like the flavor. This is a red Suriname cherry. This was about 2 inches tall when I was gifted this little plant. And that's what it looked like in March when I took these pictures. So they grow fairly quickly. This is a black Suriname cherry last year. This is that same plant this year. This is a Patanga. Now the Patanga is a Eugenia. It has a lobed fruit. Again, I haven't had fruit yet, but this was, gardeners are very generous people. When you buy from another gardener, they typically give you extras. And this one, because I bought 2 Jaboticaba trees, this was a gift he gave me as an extra last year. So these are Patanga that I bought seeds. And so those are growing really fast. These seeds are 6 months old. So I ate a guava that I loved the taste of. I saved the seeds, and out of about 12 seeds, I got 8 little plants. And guava will turn into a really nice bush, and they fruit fairly early, and they can handle down into the high 20s. So you'd still have to cover and protect if we're going to have a polar blast again. But other than that, you can count on, even if there's some freeze damage, that the plant will hopefully survive. Now, this is an absolutely amazing tree. It's the most expensive tree I bought so far, even more expensive than the macadamia tree that I bought about 10 years ago. And it is called a pitamba. It is a Eugenia lushnathiana. Now, there are people that say that this doesn't taste good, but I've also read that your particular tree may have a good flavor or it may not. Well, we got lucky and smart. I went to the nursery. I called ahead to make sure that they had fruit that was ripe that I could taste before I spent all that money with her. She went out, she looked, yes, there was fruit, and I drove 40 miles to buy this tree. So this is just a wonderfully unique tree. This is the tree this last year. Now it's not quite so good now. It had some dieback because of the freeze, but it did survive under the greenhouse protection. And at this time, I want to show you a short video because when you grow your own fruit, and it's a rare tropical fruit that none of your neighbors have, you are going to be a hit. So let me show you what you can experience.
Oh, you ready to do a taste test for everybody on our new Patamba tree?
Is it Patamba or Patomba?
Patamba.
You say Patamba, I say Patomba. Anyway, this is the fruit. About the size of a big grape. It has a wonderful smell. The smell is like mango and apricot and pineapple all kind of mixed up, and then sort of a floral hint to it. It's really, they smell delicious and they taste
juicy,
really juicy. It's got a seed in it.
Just one?
Just one. The texture is like an apricot. Even the skin in the meat has the texture of like an apricot, but it's got apricot and almost like it smells pineapple and mango. It's actually one of the most wonderful tasting fruits I've ever had. So we're hoping that the seeds will germinate and we'll get a lot more of them, because this tree has had already maybe 25 fruits on it since we bought it.
That many? I thought it was more like 12.
No, it's more than, it's at least 20. And we've got at least another dozen flowers on it. And I think, well, now all the little green ones have already grown and turned orange. They mature very, very fast. I mean, in days. So hopefully this will be as prolific as the strawberry tree. Almost the same kind of flower.
So here are 6 baby Patambas at the beginning of the springtime after the snowpocalypse. So thank goodness they're alive. And this is what they looked like 2 months later. So they're growing very quickly. Another thing that I'm doing is jabuticabas. Let me go back here so you can see the spelling. It's quite unusual. It's the Brazilian grape. It's a large grape shape. The skin is somewhat like a grape, and it's a gelatinous fruit inside, and all different kinds of flavors and varieties in the Plinia family, the jabuticaba family. This is the tree last year. So this is a Sabara, which is the most known variety of jabuticabas that have been exported from Brazil for probably about 40 years now, maybe a little longer. It's a distant relative of the crepe myrtle. So those of you that love the crepe myrtle with its peeling bark and its unusual coloration, you know, quite a specimen in anybody's yard. If you have crepe myrtles, you're gonna love growing this because it will feed you as well. It's a cauliflora, which means that it will flower and fruit on the trunk of the trees, not necessarily on the branches. So it's a really unusual thing to see and very, very beautiful to look at. When it flowers, it looks like the tree is covered in snow. If it has that many flowers and fruit coming. The Sabara is notorious for taking a very long time to flower. It can be 10 years or more. I bought this tree at Moss Nursery. It was about 4 feet tall when I bought it. It's now about 7 feet tall. There's always a question in a grower's mind of whether to prune it or not prune it. Last year, it had never been pruned since I owned it. And this year we pruned it for the first time. So this is what it looks like now with the pruning done, so that the trunk of the tree is opened up for more light. And hopefully that's going to help it start to think about flowering and setting fruit earlier than 10 years. I would say this tree is maybe 6 years old now. We've had it for 4 years. And this is another type of Jaboticaba. It's called a coronata, because when the fruit, where the fruit stem attaches to the tree, it has a little crown shape. So it's called a coronata. And it's from the Restinga area of Brazil. And I talked about the sellers being very generous. I bought this tree. It was not cheap, but I got the Pitanga tuba as an extra. And this was actually 2 seedlings in the same dirt, and I separated them. So I bought 1, but I got 2. And that is that same coronata. This is the Grimmel, and I bought 3 seedlings, got a little bit of separation going there, and I ended up with 5. The one on the left, I'm not sure if it's going to actually start to grow again. So maybe it's 4, but I only bought 3, so I'm ahead of the game anyway. Now this is a hybrid. So they've purposely crossed different varieties of Jaboticabas to create these hybrids. And it's a red. They call it precocious because it will start to flower and fruit at a much younger age than, let's say, a Sabara or the Grimmel. The Grimmel's going to take probably at least 8 years before I get fruit. It's hard to be patient when you're a grower and you're excited about your garden. So if you're going to get involved with collecting Jaboticaba trees for yourself, I suggest that you also get some that they call precocious, and the red should start to fruit at 3 to 5 years old. And when I bought these 2 reds, they were 2 years old when I bought them last summer. So they're almost 3 years old now. And maybe I'll get some fruit this year. It's hard to know. Yeah, if you fertilize them and you feed them well, you hopefully get lucky. And that's when I got them last year. This is in March. So they've already grown a little bit. It's a slow grower, but it will fruit even on a trunk that's thinner than a pencil. So I think I'm going to get lucky because I'm babying these guys. This is an Escarlate, or the Scarlet. I bought 3 of these on eBay, and this is right after I bought them. And I just potted them up from small pots into these tree pots. And I think we're going to see some tremendous growth, and it can fruit even faster than the red. It is a cross between the red and a white. So it's a hybrid of a hybrid. And this is starfruit flowers. And we have 2 starfruit trees that we've had for many years. And they've gone through 2 freezes prior to this last freeze and come back from the ground. This is what the fruit looks like. And they actually hide. They're hard to see until they start to get about at least this big. And then you'll see on the left what the starfruit trees looked like after the freeze. Just devastating. I was heartbroken. We had so much starfruit last year. We were picking 2 to 3 pieces of fruit every day from June of last year all the way up until the day of the freeze. It was amazing. So we've made starfruit jam, which is absolutely delicious. You know you're going to have to protect it, but it's well worth it. These are dwarf pomegranate trees. They're not coming back. I haven't pulled them yet because I still have a little bit of hope, but I doubt it. This is giant timber bamboo, and it is coming back. The benefit of bamboo, even though you could eat the shoots. We haven't tried them yet. But when you need something to support your peppers or your tomatoes or anything else that wants to grow up a vine, the bamboo makes a great trellising material. So we've kept all those dead stems, and we're going to have some good poles to work with. This is one of the citrus. This is a dead lychee tree. I am just so disappointed that the lychees didn't make it. Now you'll see everything from the Asian lemon to my variegated lemons and grapefruit and oranges, just all my citrus. I don't hold much hope at this point. I did have some hope for the citrus, but I'm losing it pretty quickly. So my mother grew what she called her Easter lilies, and we saved them so we would continue to have them. To me, it's a rare amaryllis, the coloration. I don't know if you've ever seen this coloration, but I just love it. And so we have multiple plantings of my mother's Easter lilies. And sure enough, this Easter morning, we had her Easter lilies in bloom. It's just a beautiful plant. You want to grow what you like, whether it feeds you or not. This is one of our banana stands. We have two, and that's the top of the pool house roof. And you'll see just above the roof line a banana flower. We got literally hundreds and hundreds of bananas last year and the year before that. They grow quickly. They survive the snowpocalypse beautifully. Now, every winter, the banana trees don't look good. You're going to take down all of the bad foliage, and it comes right back. Also, you want to cut down one of the banana trees that give you fruit and chop it up and just lay it at the bottom of the stand of bananas to feed the remaining bananas so that they will get strong enough to give you fruit as well. This is what they call the ice cream banana. They're fingerling bananas, and they are absolutely delicious. We also got smart because it's just Sean and I at our house. So if you have a big family, by all means, cut the entire bunch of bananas down when they start to ripen, and they'll continue to ripen as you continue to eat them. But there's only the two of us. So the first year we cut the entire bunch down, and we ended up with 150 bananas off the first bunch, which was way more than we could eat and way more banana bread than we would want to bake, etc. So now what we do is we cut the bananas one hand at a time. So we have 10 bananas to eat. And then we cut the next hand and we have 10 more bananas to eat. And you could stretch your harvest, and you still want to prepare things and freeze back and whatnot so you have more for once the season's over. But we had 7 trees this last year give us fruit. And the year before it was only 3. So they grow exponentially for you. And if you haven't ever tasted a banana that's homegrown, you haven't tasted a banana. What you get in the grocery store is a Cavendish. And the Cavendish are under pressure from some sort of disease right now. So the price of bananas in the stores is going to go way up. So if you want your good potassium and you love bananas, I highly recommend the ice cream banana because it's very prolific. This is after the freeze. We cleaned up that whole stand that you saw that was well over the roof line. And this picture's about 2 months ago now. And they're twice the height already between 2 months ago and today. This is the second stand of banana trees, and it's not a named variety. It was a plant that my back door neighbor had that he was redoing his landscaping and pulling away from tropicals. And so that was one little plant that he dug out of the ground, I guess about 10 years ago now. And those today are over the fence line. They really grow quickly. Okay, remember that ugly courtyard that had nothing but scrap materials from remodeling in it? This is what my courtyard looked like this last year. Of course, then we had the freeze. The plinias, plumerias died. Everything else died back to the ground. And I was just devastated because of it. But the jasmine, which is up against the wall there, is a night blooming jasmine that makes the courtyard just smell wonderful. So when you come up to my front door, you get accosted by this wonderful aroma. And it is now almost to the top of the brick wall, not anywhere near as thick as it is here, because we trimmed it back. We had to trim it back so much because of the dead wood, but it's coming back. And the red Hawaiian Thai plant that's right in the center of the screen, it is coming back from the roots. So is the variegated ginger. So are the, I don't even know the name of this plant. I'm not really good with some of the names. But you know what? That doesn't mean I can't grow it. I don't have to name it and know the name to make it grow for me. And then off to the bottom left is a Boston fern, and it's come back from the root as well. So even though it was a devastating cold blast, these guys took it like a champ. But that's what it looked like after we cleaned up the courtyard post-apocalypse. And it's now growing really, really well. I should have taken a fresh picture for y'all. Maybe the next time, if you enjoy this enough, I'd be happy to come back. We're growing blueberries. Blueberries, you want to grow at least 3 varieties because they will cross-pollinate. They bloom at the same time, but they mature the fruit at different times. So you've got early, middle, and late fruiting blueberry plants that grow really well in our heat and don't need cold so much, but they didn't mind the cold. And I have 9 plants, 4 varieties. And one of them is called a pink lemonade. So when it's ripe, it's pink and not blue. So that goes along the front wall at the edge of the driveway. One of the trees, if you aren't growing a persimmon, you need to be. This is an Asian persimmon. It's called a fuyu, and it's a non-astringent persimmon. So when it's ripe, it's not mushy like a pudding like the American persimmons are. And you can eat it even if it's a little young. But you want to wait until it's that wonderful orange and totally ripe. It's crunchy like a pear, and it's sweet and juicy. We like to sprinkle cinnamon on it. Slice it and put cinnamon on it. Very tasty. It looked like this last year. And it's got 300 flowers that are setting fruit right now. So persimmon is definitely a winner. So I love berries. So we grow blueberries and we grow 2 different kinds of blackberries. This is when we first planted the blackberries after they'd had a couple of months growing. And that was this last spring they were put in the ground. This is a patented variety of blackberry. It's called a primocane, and we got the Prime Arc Freedom and the Prime Arc Traveler, 2 different kinds. And they're out of the University of Arkansas. So you can't resell these when they spread and put out the pups, but you can give them to people. And you don't have to buy very many because when they put up a pup, you're increasing your yield as you go. 2 major things about this blackberry that made me want it right after I learned about it. The first one is that it's a primocane, which means it'll give you fruit the very first year. You don't have to wait 2 years to get fruit. And you'll get 2 crops of fruit. So the primocane will give you fruit by the beginning or middle of the summer, and then you'll get a fall crop as well. Then you cut off the first one that bloomed, and next year you'll have a summer crop from the one that gave you fruit in the fall, and you have a cycle that never ends, and you get 2 crops a year from this type of blackberry. But the best part about these blackberries, guys, is that they are thornless. And I don't like plants that bite me. So for instance, I won't grow anything that has thorns or anything that has spiky leaves that can scratch you and cut you and make you miserable, catch on your clothing and whatnot. So these are definitely a winner. That's what it looked like in midsummer last year. This is what it looks like now. Well, 2 months ago. All those little white flowers are now fruit, and they're starting to turn from green. They're getting a little tinge of pink in them. So probably in June, beginning of June, we're going to have some fruit to eat again this year. The blackberries actually thrived because of our cold snap. And you can see the little pink flowers on the ground at the underneath the berries. That's clover. You know, most people think clover's a weed. You want clover in your garden because it is a nitrogen fixer to the soil so that it's going to help everything around it be more fruitful. I talked about our seasonal greenhouse. This is what the greenhouse turned into for the fall. So we had heavy duty plastic. The sections were pulled together with Velcro, and you can see the black strips of Velcro where the plastic was attached to the eaves of the roof line. And boy, did that work great. We had weights at the bottom to hold down the plastic, and you just pull apart the plastic Velcro to step inside of it. It really worked well for us. You have to have some ingenuity if you're going to make it. And all the way at the back, that's the Patamba tree. So everything that was in this greenhouse survived. I was just so pleased. This is a Mexicola avocado. I haven't had a big success with avocados. I've bought 4 avocado trees in the past. I've had volunteers out of our compost pile grow and then die. So this one, 2 years ago, I bought at the Master Gardener tree sale, and I had the Master Gardener select the tree for me. And I followed her instructions, even though it was really difficult for me, because she told me to prune that baby back to where there were no leaves and no buds. And I did. So last year, this is what the bloom set coming is. So all these clusters, we ended up with 1 piece of fruit, and it really didn't taste good. They take a while to mature. This is the tree 2 months ago, and it's starting to create the buds and the clusters of buds at this point in time. So I doubt we'll get fruit this year, but it's certainly when the blossoms open up on these clusters, the bees will be in your garden. It was amazing how many bees we had last year and the year before. This is a hibiscus. It's called a Turk's cap hibiscus. There's red and pink. This is a pink. And technically all hibiscus is edible, but most of them don't taste good. What you eat from the Turk's cap is the flower itself and the bottom, if you will, and that you bite off the end of that, and it is absolutely sweet and delicious. So we're definitely going to see how that tastes, hopefully pretty soon. And the good part about yacon is that it is a tuber like a potato.
Did you say yacon?
It's not a potato, but it is a tuber. It's called yacon, Y-A-C-O-N. It's from Bolivia, and it is it's an inulin producer as opposed to an insulin producer when you eat it. So your body flushes that inulin out of your system. So they actually sell the powder as a diet supplement to lose weight with. So I grow them in big pots, which makes it easy to harvest. I do the same with sweet potatoes. I do actually quite a bit of container gardening at this point. And that yacon is awesome. It spreads because it has a crown to it that you can divide. So I bought one yacon plant on the internet. That year, the one plant turned into 7 when I separated it at harvest time. The next year, 7 turned into over 51 plants. So it gives you lots of food to eat, and it's absolutely yummy. The flower looks like a baby sunflower, and the leaves feel like velvet to the touch. It's a very cool plant. I highly recommend it. This is our harvest of the yacon. So it looks like a parsnip or a carrot because it grows on, this is the part that's underground. You let it age after you harvest. You let it age for several days and it actually gets sweeter. It's commonly known as the earth apple. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful vegetable. It's crunchy like a water chestnut. We eat it raw in salads. We saute it with butter and garlic. We add it with other root vegetables into stews and soups, and roasted vegetables with turnips and carrots and potatoes and whatever all else you want to add as a medley of veggies. It is one of the most delicious things you'll ever eat. And you'll never see it in the store because they don't store well. They don't travel well. So harvesting is really easy though. I take those great big pots that they're in and lay out a tarp, turn over the pot and shake it all out, and then use a hose and wash the dirt off of it, and then you're ready to eat it. So you can store it like carrots. You don't have to harvest it all at once. You can leave it in the pot, and when you're ready for the next round of food, then you harvest the next pot. So it's really easy. And this is this spring. So the snowpocalypse killed some of the tubers that we tried to separate and grow, but we still have a crop this year. So I think probably 4 out of the almost 20 pots that we tried to start this year have survived. So I bought it once, and it's been feeding us for 5 years. So this is a Madeira vine. I know it's supposed to be edible, but I haven't tasted anything. It hasn't fruited yet. So I'm not sure. This is the Everglades tomato. It grows wild. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So they grow wild in the Everglades of Florida. They love the Texas heat. We got tomatoes from this plant only last year, all the way through October. So I highly recommend the Everglades tomato. It's a very small cherry tomato, but it's delicious. So this is this year, and all around the edge of the screen is the tomatoes, and in the big bin beside it is basil. Basil is a companion plant for tomatoes. They taste good together and they grow well together. So this is my garden patrol. His name is Pharaoh, and he's the one who was whining earlier to go outside. He is just wonderfully, really protects the garden, and both he and Zigzag chase the squirrels away. So just real quickly, I'm going to breeze through. I'm growing garlic in bins. I'm growing leeks, cabbages. This is Romano green beans. It's a pole bean, very prolific. You'll never see Romano beans in the grocery store, but you can grow. And for the last 3 weeks, I have harvested green beans 3 times a week, and just really prolific. And it's the most delicious green bean you'll ever eat. This is red vein sorrel, wonderful for leek and sorrel soup. as well as a good green to put into salads. I'm growing cucumbers, and the little leaves in front of the cucumbers that will climb up the trellis is called salad burnet, and it actually tastes like cucumber. It's a great thing to add along with other herbs. Baby dwarf tomatoes. This is Okinawan spinach, also a wonderful salad green. And it lasted through the snowpocalypse in the greenhouse.
Ooh.
Those were snow peas. This is daikon radish or daikon radish. It's a huge radish. It's bigger and fatter than a carrot, but it's more mellow than most radishes. To me, a radish has a lot of heat to it, but these do not. Really delicious. They use them with Vietnamese rolls. They're just delicious. This is longevity spinach. It's both the longevity and the Okinawan spinach. Great in the salad and wonderful to help control your cholesterol level. This is red Malabar spinach. Also one that likes the heat in salads. I grow two different kinds of hibiscus, along with now the pink Turk's cap hibiscus. But these two, the cranberry hibiscus and the roselle hibiscus, are wonderful in salads, has kind of a citrusy taste, and the blossoms used to make hibiscus tea. So it's multi-use. And they're easy to grow. You just put those seeds in the ground, save the seeds, and you're going to get thousands of seeds after you buy it the first time. We grow sweet peppers and onions. This is an Egyptian walking onion, which is a perennial onion. You also want to grow chives, because once you get the chives going, you're going to have chives in your garden all the time. Same thing with the other herbs like oregano and rosemary. Starfruit flowers, starfruit fruit. So the starfruit you saw froze to the ground, but I grabbed some seeds last year, so I'm going to have good sweet starfruit, hopefully in less than 4 years. I also grow fennel, very expensive to buy in the grocery store, but it's totally delicious to cook with fish and to eat raw in salads. This is called peanut butter fruit. And it goes well with blackberry jam, and this is the blackberry jam fruit. And hopefully they're going to give us fruit pretty quick. I understand that you can get fruit from those two in as early as 2 to 3 years. So we're growing pomegranate. Just bought that pomegranate last year, and it made it with the protection of the greenhouse as well. That's what it looks like this year. This is a Java plum, and I got some seedlings, and I bought a 2-year-old plant. So hopefully that's going to be one that gives us fruit really quickly. This is a Manila tamarind tree. Some call it jambalin over in the eastern part of the world, and it will grow to be a 40-foot tall tree. Now, apparently it doesn't like to freeze, but if it's a mature tree after a freeze, hopefully it will come back. And it's a really fast-growing tree, unbelievably fast. That's what the fruit looks like. And that's what one, you saw it at about 3 months old in the smaller plants. This is a year to a year and a half old. So they grow pretty darn fast. 5 years, it'll be 40 feet tall. We're growing passion fruit vines. Again, I took clippings of it before the freeze, so we didn't lose all of them. And we have 2 different kinds, both the purple and the red flowering. And that's what the cuttings looked like a couple months ago. And they're already climbing up the trellis. It'll grow 30 feet. I bought some slips of Hawaiian white pineapple. It's called the Hilo White. And they made it through the freeze in the greenhouse as well. This is shiso spinach. Pretty neutral tasting. That's this year versus last year. This is a strawberry guava, and it's grown quite a bit in 6 months. Y'all had John Panzarello do a seminar for y'all last year. He brought back seeds from Italy of a loquat, and this is the Genoa loquat that I bought from John. This is a hummingbird tree. The flowers are edible, and boy, does it bring the pollinators. Just amazing. I'm trying sugar apple and rainforest plum, which is a type of eugenia. And if you haven't tasted a finger lime yet, it is amazing. It's a native of Australia. They're very thorny, but even though I don't like trees that bite, I'm going to suffer through a little bit of getting scratched from this finger lime. It's called caviar lime. And you can put it into desserts. You can mix it into a gin and tonic. Put it on top of sushi. It's very versatile and wonderful. And I have 3 different ages. The one in the middle that's tallest is about 2.5 years old. 2.5 years old. And then I have one that's 2 years old. And then I have some that are like 9 months old. Grows pretty slow. I hadn't tasted it. So when I met John Panzarella and toured his garden, he let me take a finger lime home so I could taste it for the first time. And I planted the seeds. So I have seedlings. I have about 12 seedlings. And that's what the fruit looks like. So it's not a round citrus. That's why they call it a finger lime, because it's as long and as fat as your fingers. And that's what the fruit looks like. You squeeze it out of the peel. And then when you eat it, all those little vestules pop inside your mouth. Just amazing. We have a fig tree. It is doing great. We just did a lot of air layering, and some branches we just stuck in dirt, and they're all growing. That's what it looks like 2 months ago. So it made it through the freeze really well. If you haven't tasted moringa yet, this is one you really want to look out for, and you can buy in nurseries. It is the tree of life. Everything about the tree is edible. I put some in a salad every night. The seeds grow in a big pod, and dry the seeds, and those seeds will purify water. It is an amazing tree and grows 10 feet in a year. We have Ceylon gooseberry. We have turmeric that we grow in pots, so it's easy to harvest. And the blossoms are really beautiful, and it's really good for you. So the message I want to leave with you is that you should grow what you like. That doesn't always mean that it's edible. There's that azalea coming back from the dead. We have bleeding heart plants that help with the tropicals. I love birds of paradise. This is the large blue and white bird, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. And they've come back from the freeze, so they're doing well. This is a type of ginger called alapui from Hawaii, and you don't eat this ginger. You shampoo your hair with it. You squeeze the cones, and it gives you a really nice, almost a lotion richness. And it's absolutely wonderful for your hair. As the cones mature, they change color. So it's really pretty in the garden, even if you never squeeze it to use it for shampoo. It's a lovely ginger to grow. And it is already taking off this year. The stalks are probably at least a foot tall already. This is another hibiscus called the Texas Star, and it's just lovely. Apparently very rare to have white and such a large bloom. This was my Christmas tree last year in the living room. It's a Norfolk pine, and it's now about maybe 5 feet tall with the pot. And I may never end up putting it in the ground. It may live in the pot its whole life. This is also an amazing, it's a lily. It's called the giant purple crinum lily. And there are lots of different crinums. Most of them are a small bud or blossom. This is actually multiple blossoms that bloom pretty much at the same time. And you can't kill this tree. If you want something that's tried and true, you want to get a crinum lily, and they're very rare and very hard to find. And when you find them, they're very expensive, but it is well worth it. You ignore it. You don't have to water it. You don't have to worry about it drowning if we have flooding. It came back from the freeze. When it first, right after the freeze, like a month after the freeze, I had blossoms before I had new leaves. Really amazing. And that's a picture of the bloom coming before any leaf happened. Pretty amazing. I grow comfrey, which doesn't feed you, but it feeds the plants. So it's a type of food. It mines the minerals from the subsoil, and you cut off the leaves and just drop it around your other plants, and it feeds them. This is another nitrogen fixer. It's called a Mexican sunflower. It's not invasive. You don't buy seeds, you buy cuttings, and it grows from cuttings. So you're going to learn a lot of lessons as you grow. You're going to learn from your mistakes. You're going to learn from your successes. It's all an experiment. So enjoy it, everything that your garden will give you. And I really hope that you get a little dirt under your fingers and see what you can grow, whether it's one thing in a pot or whether it's your entire landscape.
If anybody has any questions at this time, please feel free to go ahead and type those into the question and answer box. We did have a request, PJ, if you have a list or if you can compile a list of the beautiful plants that you are harvesting and growing in your yard, because there were so many. I agree. It would be great if you could send that to me, then I could send it to everyone who logged in today.
Oh, honey, the list is so massive. It would be really difficult to get you a list because I grow different things every year. So let me show you just a couple of things that I'm already harvesting this year. So this is my absolute favorite green bean to grow. A lot of people grow green beans, and they do Kentucky Wonder and this and that. Snow peas, there are a lot of different varieties and whatnot. But this is hard to find seeds. I bought them from an Italian seed company called Franchi Seeds. The pods will grow to 8 to 10 inches long. It tastes very nutty. It's the most wonderful green bean you'll ever taste. And you will never see it in a grocery store because, it was more ma and pa grocery stores, but for decades I've never seen them in the grocery store. So I grow my own. And that's the one that we've been harvesting several times a week. This is the Yacon. I highly recommend it. Easy to grow, easy to harvest. You can grow them in the ground, but that makes for a lot more work digging them out. This is my turmeric harvest last year. I sliced them up small. I dry them, and then I grind them in a spice mill. And so I put turmeric in my salad. Every time I eat a salad, it's so good for your digestion. You can cook with it. They use it as a spice for a lot of different meals. Indian cuisine and all different kinds of cuisines use turmeric as an herb to spice with. And it's just an amazingly wonderful thing to eat for your system and for your taste buds. I grow several different types of cucumbers. The brown one starts yellow, like the one in the center, and then turns brown as it matures. And cucumbers will hide under the leaves, so you might not see it to harvest it when it's in prime shape. I've harvested these at 12 inches long and as big around as your fist, and they are not bitter. It's called a Puna Kira cucumber. And then the one to the left of that is called a White Wonder. And I also grow the Persian cucumbers that are small and good for pickling, but any of these you can pickle. And it's just if you like to eat cucumbers, grow the salad Burnett, which has a cucumber taste, so that before your cucumbers are ripe, you have the flavor in your salad without having to buy it in the grocery store and buy something that's laden with chemicals. So several different types of cucumbers are really easy to grow and wonderful taste. So that's just a few of the things that I enjoy. I save the hibiscus flowers and make tea out of the hibiscus. And anything that's an unusual is what I'm going to want to grow. We tried growing a date palm so we could have the dates, and the snow apocalypse killed my date palm tree after 5 years. So I think I'm not going to worry about growing them anymore, because it's too devastating to invest decades like I did with the citrus trees just to have them not survive. So you'll survive the snow apocalypse. Most of your plants and trees will as well. A lot of these trees, like especially the Jaboticaba and the Eugenias, they can live in a pot their entire life. So you can roll them into the garage, or put them into a greenhouse in the wintertime, or put them in your garage under grow lights, whatever you need to do to protect them from the cold. And that way you've got survival. For instance, if I grow lychee again, I will keep them in a pot for at least 5 years before I put them in the ground, because we never know if we're going to have an easy winter or a tough one.
Thank you so much, PJ. I appreciate it. We don't have any open questions right now, but if anybody watching, I did want to let everyone know the webinar is being recorded, so it will be available probably by Monday or Tuesday, and I will automatically email everyone the webinar link, so you can go back and watch it and relearn what we learned today if you forgot something or didn't write it down. And additionally, if you think of questions after the fact, you can send them to myself at Club Sienna. So you just email Sienna at operations@clubsienna.com, and I can forward those on to PJ, and she can respond to you directly with the answers. Again, that's operations with an S at clubsienna.com. That's PJ's contact information. You can give her a ring directly.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah. And it's clear you have a real passion for what you do, and you have a wealth of knowledge. So I definitely appreciate the time. We do have one quick question here before we log off. It's a good one. What are some of the best sources that you get your plants from? Where do you recommend people look for exotic plants?
Okay, so I've done a lot over the internet, especially since COVID started. The Franchi seeds I recommend. For any of the rare tropical fruits, you might want to join the Texas Rare Fruit Growers group. The Tropical Fruit Forum is really a good source for knowledge, so you can learn all about what works and what doesn't. And there are some members of both those forums that will sell what they grow. One of the really reputable sellers is Flying Fox Fruits, and he only sells in eBay auctions for the most part anyway. And I've gotten quite a few of my seeds. In fact, 90% of the seedlings I got from Adam at Flying Fox Fruits. There's a lady in Beaumont that's part of the Texas Rare Fruit Growers. She is amazing, and she has a green thumb to beat all of our thumbs. She must have 1,000 trees in her 100 by 50-foot lot and that she lives in the house. And they're all in pots for the most part. She has some things growing in the ground, but all around everything growing in the ground, there are pots with other things growing. She's just amazing. And every once in a while, she'll have extras that she sells. So I've gotten like my 2 red Jabos, the hybrid red. I bought those from her. I bought the Java plum from her. I bought a finger lime, an Australian finger lime. You know, getting citrus anymore is going to be very, very difficult. So that's why, even though a citrus takes a long time to fruit from seed, you may want to, if you've got a fruit that you like the taste of. If your citrus trees have survived below the graft, that whatever would fruit on that rootstock is not going to be edible, but you can graft different varieties onto that rootstock. So don't throw away that stump if it's trying to grow again. Let it get some maturity to it, and then find somebody to graft for you and pay them, or get brave and try grafting yourself. And it may work and it may not, but you're going to have the rootstock to go back to. If a graft fails, you can try again.
Have a wonderful weekend, and everybody get out there and do your gardening, because the rain is coming. The rain gods are going to be good to us here.
That's great.
Take care.
Thank you.